about tonight, an interesting topic, coming from me at least, but that's about passion and living a life worth living. Before I get started, I want to thank you all for coming out. I know a lot of you have exams on at the moment and stuff, so I've got no idea why you're here, not cramming or procrastinating or whatever. But anyway, time's like the most precious thing we've got. It's the great equaliser, in that time doesn't really care how good looking you are or talented or brilliant or how rich you are. We all get the same number of hours in a day. So I'm very flattered that you're all hanging around today to give a little bit of your time to me, so I'm hoping I can give some food for thought back to you. So my goal for tonight is to share what's worked for me and what hasn't. I turned 27 last month, so I've got between 2 and 9 years of life experience on you guys, so not too far removed to be irrelevant, but you know. But who am I to start talking about what works and what doesn't? And that's a fair question. That's something I ask of people when they start doing presentations. I'm still a few years away from being able to be labelled an overnight success story, so it's still a work in progress in a lot of ways. Having said that, my resume is pretty formidable. My experiences up until 2010 included the following. Operated my own small business while completing my undergrad degree at the University of Wollongong. Also had jobs in financial planning, liquor retail, sales and marketing at the same time whilst doing that degree. Completed a nationally recognised 3-year leadership development program through the uni. I was on the executive of 7 clubs and societies. I was also elected as a student rep to the University Union. I'm not sure what the equivalent organisation here is, but we ran the pub, the bookshop and all that sort of stuff. So we're talking about a company with $14 million a year in turnover. I was Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce for my home suburb, as well as Marketing Director of the Junior Business Chamber, and that year we scooped up 8 national awards, including Best Recruiting and Marketing Campaign. We grew to become the second biggest chapter of this youth chamber organisation. We overtook Melbourne, almost took over Sydney, so it was a pretty good year. Graduated with honours from the UAW Commerce, and in 2008 it was a really shitty time to graduate in commerce. Like the GFC was just unrolling. I was getting this finance degree going, what in the world am I going to do? So anyway, I applied for the government, and I made it into it was the only graduate I applied for because I had my own business and stuff. I was making money, but I got selected in the field of 30 out of 5,000 applicants. That's how big the competition was that year, because the investment banks weren't taking on grads and all that sort of stuff, right? So anyway, wasn't meant to be coming across the bragging. I'm just saying that I've done a little bit, so I'm hoping that in and amongst all that I can distill some of the lessons there, and hopefully there's something you want to take away from it. Or otherwise, if any of those things sound interesting or like stuff you're contemplating for yourself, more than happy to have a chat about that at some other time.
When did you sleep?
No, not much. Not much. But I'm going to talk about stuff like that in a bit. But so that was between 2005 2010. So it's quite a few years there. Fast forward to late 2012, so the end of last year, so about a year ago. I was earning about $90,000 a year and living pretty comfortably in Canberra. I was a senior assessor in the R&D tax incentive program in Oz Industry. So basically what that is that companies that are doing research and development sort of stuff, so white lab coats, all that sort of gear, they can get a refundable tax offset, so they can get money back from the government for doing that stuff. So I had a really great job in a lot of ways. Like there was a lot of autonomy. I was just travelling around the country meeting with reps from the biggest companies, talking to their tax agents and their group tax managers and all that sort of stuff, right? So a lot of aspects of that I liked, but at the same time, a lot of aspects of that I didn't.
Trouble?
Too much? Sorry?
Too much trouble?
Yeah, like travel sounds pretty glamorous, but to be honest, like living out of a suitcase is pretty rough, and you don't eat well, and the gyms and the hotels are always pretty average. Like, what are running machines? Like, give me a set of weights. But anyway, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the term an existential crisis before. I don't know if you have, but what it is, I'm going to read what it is. It's something that occurs when the answers to the questions about the meaning and purpose of life, as well as our place in it, no longer provide satisfaction, direction, or peace of mind. So that's when you get kind of stuck in asking some really big questions, and you're not too happy about the answers that you've got for yourself about who am I, what am I doing, you know? Has anyone else felt like that before? Thank you.
At least twice.
Yeah. You know, it's something I come back to pretty regularly. You know, like, what's the damn point of all this? And I think part of where that comes from is part of it's a symptom I'm going to call the paradox of choice, which is like, look, I don't know all of you and your backgrounds very well, so don't take one about say it as being disrespectful of your own hardships and adversities in your own life. But on the whole of it, we're like the luckiest group of people to have ever lived. Like, you look back at the course of like human history and development, it was a pretty shitty place, and for a lot of the world even today, still really is. So like I'm saying, I'm not trying to gloss over individual hardships you've had, but you know, in bigger terms, very lucky group of people sitting around this table here today. And it's not even guaranteed it'll ever be this good again. So there's a lot of pressure to really choose wisely, and that's the paradox of choice, which is a little bit of choice is a good thing. So you'd think even more choice is a great thing. The thing is, though, you get kind of paralysed, like, what the hell am I doing with my time? How am I going to spend my life? I could be doing this over here, or this over there, or this over the other. And it's hard to kind of pick where you want to go and what you want to do. And I appreciate if you're going through that at the moment, and I certainly get back into it as well. But you know, I think most of you here are still going through your undergrad days and stuff like that. So it's going to be something you're going to be questioning a little bit more, especially after you graduate. And if you go into grad programs or that first full-time job afterward, and you kind of live the day-to-day adult life, you know, I imagine these questions are definitely going to resurface. So I guess that's a lot of pressure to choose well. So I guess bringing it back to the title of what I wanted to talk about, which is passion and living a life worth living, is that you've got to aim for something that gives you a really deep and lasting sense of self-satisfaction, if that makes sense. So part of the gift of the age that you guys are now, and I'm not, like, I consider myself in your age group, by the way, but just on the latter end of the bookshelf, but you guys have complete choice in a couple of things, which is how to spend your time and what to think about. You know, and those are two really powerful but daunting choices that you've got. And part of being at uni, particularly, you know, your more liberal arts side of education and stuff like that, uni doesn't teach you how to think, but it can certainly give you ideas of what to think about. And that's one of the hardest choices as you get older and you know, take on adult responsibilities, because it's really, really easy to get caught up in the day-to-day routine of things, like you find yourself falling into a rut or something like that. And maybe you feel like that way now, I don't know. But there's a great commencement speech by an author named David Foster Wallace called This Is Water. I don't know if you guys have read that before. Definitely recommend you give it a go. It's like a 10-minute read or something like that. Very prolific author, a lot of great insights around all of that. So for me, detail a lot of shit that I got done during my undergrad days, right? So for me, those questions of who you are and what you are in the world, I was just kind of filling that void with just trying to achieve as much as possible. Don't even think about it, just keep your head down, just keep saying yes to more stuff, biting off more than you can chew, and let the bigger answers sort themselves out. So you're driving yourself like a lunatic on some invisible treadmill, right? For other people, there's more destructive habits to take on, and for others, again, the answer used to be in really big institutions. A lot of people invest a lot of their identity into things like the church or the military, large companies, political parties, sporting clubs and stuff like that. And I think part of the other challenge about this existential crisis is that it just feels like each week there's another scandal in another really big organisation. And to me it feels like the ability to put any trust or faith in these big organisations, it's kind of getting really hard to do that. Not because they're getting worse, but just because it's not so easy to cover this stuff up anymore, if that makes sense. I mean, they've always been human because humans run these things. It's just it's never been so easy to close the gap between yourself and that institution is all. So I guess the challenge is what do you look to instead? Because I can tell you that flogging yourself with more work and stuff to do just leaves you feeling burnt out, and also a little bit hollow if you're not, addressing those bigger questions about who you are and what you want your purpose to be, and indeed what your passion is, which I'll be getting to in a bit. So instead of looking outward, I'd suggest looking more inward. Things on a more micro level. Maybe that just means more towards the family unit, smaller organisations, even like the Rotaract Club at the University of Canberra. Because I think there's definitely something to be said for signing up for a cause that's bigger than yourself. I just don't think it's massive institutions that are going to deliver it going forward. That's a personal bit. Some advice that I had in my first year of uni is that the best way to grow as a young adult is through travel and community service. And I haven't done a lot of travel, very little, but I've done quite a lot of community service type stuff, and I don't regret, a minute spent doing any of that stuff. I've learned a lot about myself and a lot about being empathetic and connecting with other people, and a lot of really good stuff that will carry you well, serve you well, no matter what you do. So I don't think it's time wasted what goes on in this club and what you guys are about and what you want to do. In the last few years, I've found I've really been enjoying mentoring and youth development. So Rotary Youth Leadership Award I help run each year. I'm going to be taking over as the convener of the whole thing next year, which will be awesome, but a big challenge. Also, like volunteering with the Ted and Office Foundation, so with homeless youth, trying to connect with them one-on-one, so I can get my mentoring fixed when I'm not at Ryla in January. And then lastly, with refugees for Canberra Refugee Support. So anyway, late night December 2012, I think I was bloody high on YouTube video clips, right? Have you guys seen like Steve Jobs' commencement address? Yeah, it was so G'd up after that. Couple of TED Talks later and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, it's got to be a change. I'm 2 years in the APS removed from being at the level of influence I want to be at to impact on policy and that sort of stuff. So I thought, something's got to give here. I've got to go and do something else. So before I could talk myself out of it, wrote the letter and sent it in that night, and that's how it goes. And I don't want this to be interpreted as a snub by me towards the Australian Public Service. No, there's a lot of really rewarding careers in the APS. So, and some of the brightest and most passionate people I've ever met are all working in there. So don't walk away from here thinking, oh, Matt said the APS is shit. It just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me personally. On that subject, but I don't regret my time there either. So my family background, both sides small business owners throughout. So when I said I was giving up my own small business and going to go be a bureaucrat, like copped at family reunions and that sort of stuff. But I think the lesson from that is it's one thing to hear what others have to say about something. There's a lot to be said for going and experiencing yourself and forming your own opinions. And more to that, with opportunities, as long as you put the work in and try and learn what you can from something, I don't think there's any such thing as a wasted opportunity. I think that the dots kind of join up down the road. And if you're a little strategic about the jobs that you do take, you can kind of engineer that to happen. So that tax program and R&D and all that sort of stuff, I decided if I was going to be a public servant, I wanted to stay connected to business, which I absolutely did through that. So that was one thing. I also wanted to know how to speak fluent public servant because they do have their own language in a lot of ways, and even if you're in business in Australia or indeed doing anything, you can't get away from having to interact with the government at some point. And it doesn't need to be an adversarial system where you think it's you versus council when you want to do a renovation or whatever. To be honest, it's just knowing about how to approach people that work for the government, having an idea about what it is that they need to be able to do their job well, and bridging those sort of gaps. So I think the dots will join up. So don't worry if you feel like you might have chosen the wrong kind of path for yourself. As long as you put in the work in, there's no such thing as a wasted experience. And that's the other thing. You don't have to be right the first time either. So I put 3 years into the APS, and now I'm pivoted out of it, and I'm seeing the upside to what I got to what I did there, but I'm definitely moving in a different direction now. And you guys had sunny fall